An American economist, Bernie Sanders, once said that a nation will never serve morally or economically when so few have so much while so many have so little. This statement basically pointed out on one of the critical economic problems that happen globally, almost in every nation, which is inequality. In 2017, data from International Labour Organization has found out that the global labor income share is 51.4%. And out of this percentage, although the national income has increased, the distribution is very uneven, with the top 10% earns almost 50% out of it, while the bottom 50% earns just 6.4%. In spite of that, there are many improvements can be seen in the economy, and a lot of effort has been done to minimize the income inequality between the rich and the poor until the COVID-19 pandemic happened. The spike of COVID-19 pandemic has worsened the scenario. Not only it deteriorate people's health, but it also abrupt the social and economic aspects and reversing decades of progress in the fight against poverty. Therefore, a collective action is needed to gather the problems, including going back to the basic of analyzing the theoretical concept of economics in various branches of the social sciences. The theory of distribution has undergone a long series of formation and reformation from the classical era of classical economics until the modern development of Islamic economics. It is one of the important concepts in economics as it deals with determining the nation's level of inequality and also economic growth. The concept of distribution can be extended into income distribution and wealth distribution. Income distribution, which also known as functional income distribution, refers to the share of income from productive factors of labor, land, capital, and entrepreneur activity. Meanwhile, the personal income refers to the stock of valuable possessions, including the cash, the shares, the bonds, and the value of property such as the cars and the house. To compare the distribution theory from the perspective of mainstream economics and Islamic economics, we will look at four distinct features, which are the epistemology, or the sources of the knowledge, the basic theoretical concept of distribution theory, the pros and cons of both economic thought, and also the scholars. To begin with, the mainstream economics embraces capitalism, which is the man-made ideologies that centered the owner of production in the process of decision-making. Meanwhile, the Islamic economy is firmly upholding into the principle of justice, fairness, and equality based on the revealed sources of Al-Quran and As-Sunnah. Next, the basic concept of mainstream economics mostly referred to the theory of marginal productivity that was introduced by Adam Smith in his Wealth of Nations, which was reiterated by Karl Marx and also David Ricardo. The theory explained the factors that determine the demand of labor and capital, which are the wage rate and interest rates. It also deals solely with the functional income distribution, which emphasizes on the productive factor, with focus given on the owner of production. Meanwhile, Islamic economics standpoints on distribution was based on 5 notably commanding principles from the Quran, which is the firstly, Allah is the only real and absolute owner of everything, including man. Therefore, man will play the role as his servant and the vicegerent of the earth in managing the economy according to his will. Number 2, there is a natural differences in abilities and skills bestowed upon man that allows the equality to not be absolute, and there will definitely be some form of disparity. Number 3, the objective of Islamic economic distribution is to enable everyone to get what is rightfully due to him. Number 4, the fulfillment of the basic needs is very important, or the less privileged group. And number 5, Islamic economic vision of a distribution system is to eradicate the concentration of wealth. Next, we move on to the scholar's contribution. The emergence of theory of distribution in mainstream economics can be traced down from the classical era with scholars like Alfred Marshall, John Bates Clark, and John Rawls will come into pictures, describing the extended version of theory of marginal productivity by Adam Smith and David Ricardo. While in the realm of Islamic economic thought, scholars like Bakir al-Sadr, Monzir Khaff, and Shafina Rahim attempt to bridge the knowledge with Islamic approach with references to Sharia ruling. The weaknesses of the mainstream economics theory of distribution can be seen in the unrealistic assumption that it put in its model of distribution, and also the undermining role of government in the economic system. As the mainstream economists argue that the market is perfect, so it clarifies their justification that there is no need for government to intervene in the economy. Despite that, the weakness in the mainstream economics still result to the inequality problem. As a result, there are many initiatives and efforts has been done by the Islamic scholars in economics to improve the theory, such as one that has been recently developed by one of the scholars, which is Shafina Rahim, by the name of Model of Distributive Justice. This model of distributive justice will be referred as MDJ from now on. So MDJ attempts to achieve 3 objectives, which are the first one, the fulfillment of the basic needs, acquiring equitable personal income, and to rule out extreme inequalities. MDJ has laid out the principle of distribution as a whole, in which can be used further for the implementation in the economy system. It has included the Sharia viewpoints, which are equity and fairness. Therefore, so far it can be said as one of the most recent developed model on the distribution theory. Next, the way forward of improving the distribution theory to cater the problems of inequality and poverty is to apply the model of distributive justice in the economy. Some ways to apply the model in the economy is through the experimental based research and also through observing the government aid program. Other than that, there is also a need for an institution to become the observer and regulator. In most nations, the government is the one that was held the responsibility to manage the distribution. However, if the role is still failed to be played by the government, there is a need for a separate body or separate institution to play the role in the distribution. For example, a religious body that have both knowledge in economics and also in Sharia can be the one who manage the distribution in the economy. As for conclusion, there is a long way for the model to be declared as universal and can be used as basis of tool in the economic analysis. There will be a lot of constraints and challenges to implement it in the economy system. However, the challenges should not limit the effort and devitalize the motivation of the scholars and young economists to undertake the race. It is hopeful to see that the model can actually work in practice and will be resulted in a better distribution system in the economy.